guys? Mr. Jerry speaking. Welcome to LJPCBM Reacts, episode number 594. And today I'm reacting to Vanessa Williams and Purple Roads podcast, episode 61. And today I'm reacting to this beginning in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
I'm Carrie Stinson, and my journey through life has been quite an adventure. For over 20 years, I played Barney the Dinosaur on tour and 7 seasons of the hugely popular TV show Barney and Friends. Now my journey is to bring together friends and guests from all over the entertainment world for inspiring and at times amusing behind-the-scenes conversation. I'm Carrie Stinson, and this is Purple Roads.
Okay.
Welcome to Purple Roads. My name is Carrie Stinson, and I am so happy you're here this week. Purple Road is going down memory lane this week. We have got Susanna, you'll probably know her as Wetzel, Susanna Williams. She played Julie in seasons 200 and 300 of Barney and Friends, and she was with me at Radio City Music Hall. And oh my goodness, it is so good to see you, Susanna. How are you?
I'm doing well, and it's great to be here. I'm very excited. So, thank you.
The fans are going to be so excited you're here. They love hearing these stories, and they love hearing the perspective. It's obviously very different for a kid compared to an adult on these shows, and so it's going to be so much fun talking about all of this. Obviously, we're going to get into a lot with Barney here, but I kind of want to start with how did you get into acting? Was it something that you just wanted to do? Did you have any training? Where did this all come from?
So my story is kind of funny, I think, in that, and I don't know if you know this, but my dad did a video with Barney. He did, it was a special video. I think it was Magical Musical Adventure.
And I do know this, by the way.
Okay.
And I talked about this with Dennis DeShazer.
Okay.
About this. I do know this. But I think you're right. Most fans won't know this.
Right. Although then if they were to get their hands on that footage, they would immediately see our likeness. So he did, my dad was always into acting since he was a kid, born in 1948. So he did a bunch of different things. And then when he got married and had kids, he really did a lot of community theater and just, community things. And somehow through community theater, he auditioned for this Barney production and wound up doing this video. I loved it. And when he was doing it, Dennis said, we're looking for some kids. Do you have any kids who would want to audition? There are 3 of us, my brother, sister, and myself. I'm the middle child, unsurprisingly. So my dad thought, what a great opportunity. Sure. I had done community theater alongside my dad, mostly musicals, and I just loved it.
How old were you at that time?
So that's another thing about my story is that I feel like I was, the ideal child actor in that I was much older than I looked. So at that time, I auditioned when I was 10. I looked 6.
Right, and that was very popular. I mean, that's what you do. For the people that don't know, with kid actors, you always look for someone that is older that looks younger.
Yeah, because you just it's easier to memorize your lines, so you don't just withstand all of the professional stuff. So I auditioned. I sang "You're Never Fully Dressed Without a Smile" for my audition from Annie.
Wow.
And then they said, sure, we want you on the show. So I started, I think it was March of 1993.
Wow.
Okay. And we were talking this earlier. This was the same time that Jeff Ayers joined. Is that correct?
Yep. So he and I were, and I don't think we were in that first episode together. We might have been. It was the Mother Goose episode. We did start around the same time because I remember there were some times where I think he kind of encouraged me at the beginning when I was feeling nervous and overwhelmed that, I'm in the same boat. So it was great.
Was this was in Las Colinas or was it in Allen?
So it was in Allen for that first season that I did on Series 200, and then we moved to Las Colinas for 300.
Well, I want to start right there because I was thinking about that, thinking, I bet that's what happened. Because, I don't think a lot of fans know that in Allen, it was a split studio. So the classroom and the park, and the cameras in the park while you were shooting in the classroom and vice versa. And Las Colinas was huge.
Oh my gosh, yes. It was amazing to go there that first time and see the set and just feel like, wow, this is for real now. So,
Man.
Was it intimidating going from, because you're a really close family in Allen. I mean, it is a small studio. And then you go to this massive place in Las Colinas. Was that overwhelming?
I just remember thinking that, okay, the show is, it's really reached a lot of people. It's doing really well. That we, could expand like that, build the treehouse set. I think, I remember that, thinking that was just so cool. And I think, but that was after Radio City. So we had all been together for a long time and gotten established. So it didn't feel, at that point, it didn't feel overwhelming. It was more just really exciting.
Wow.
When you first started, what was overwhelmed? Was it memorizing lines? Was it the cameras? Was it just all the people? Or was it all easy for you because of the theater background?
So no, and again, I had never done any television at all. I remember feeling a little bit like I think I was probably the only one or among the only ones. I didn't have an agent. I had very little experience. So the other kids, a lot of them had done commercials and, I think might be industry work it's called. And I really was just completely new to all of it. So it was all of the things, sure, I knew how to project my voice, but I didn't really need to, on TV. So that was definitely an adjustment and just getting, used to having the boom come down and not look at it. And I remember very well on my first episode, I mean, everyone was so lovely and kind, but I just remember, getting close to tears one time because I kept looking at the camera, during a certain song or whatever and realizing it and knowing like, stop looking at the camera. But, it all came in time, but that was just the regular parts of TV that I wasn't used to were overwhelming at the beginning.
Wow.
Well, it's funny, and I don't know that everyone notices this, but with Barney and Friends, not only did you have to remember lines, but all the singing and dancing. There's a lot of that involved, and choreographers, and of course you would have worked with Miss Penny that we talk about so much, and I just love so much. Did it help you that you had done musical theater, that the singing and the dancing part wasn't too difficult for you?
So I would definitely say, I mean, I'm sure Dennis or Jim could speak to it, but I think I was hired because I could sing, not because I could dance. So the dancing, I mean, that was definitely not my forte. I remember thinking, Pia Min, who was a trained dancer and amazing.
And if you don't know, she's been on here. She's got a dance studio now and all of those things.
And she was amazing, then. And I just remember thinking, even at, 10 years old, I would see her dance and just be like, could I just be, like singing on the side and she could do the dancing part? Because, and I remember actually for Radio City, I have a very clear memory of being in the rehearsal room and us working out one of the songs, and Miss Penny had to be like, okay, Susanna, on the beat. That was never my strength. But I think one of the really cool things about being one of the kids on the show is that the producers, the director, the writers, they played to our strengths. So, if there was a part that required more intricate dancing, it wasn't going to go to me. They kind of gave us what we were talented with. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and I was not a trained dancer. I've talked about it many times on the show. I'm not a trained dancer by any means, and you know, God love Miss Penny because she was so good at that. You know, she would have to get you, as you say, on beat, but she was so good about doing it in an encouraging way of saying, all right.
Yes, and her choreography again, you know, it just really played to everyone's strengths. So yeah, but I mean, I think we all, you know, kind of pulled each other along on the parts that we needed help with. So.
And then what was it like working with Big Purple Dinosaur?
Oh my gosh! I mean, I think one of the really fun things was to be an insider on the show, and I again, since I hadn't had any television experience, just learning all the ins and outs of how everything worked was amazing. I remember, you know, on the first time that I was on set and seeing like the fan inside of the costume.
Right, because you were working with David Joyner.
Yes.
Out west.
Yep, and I remember, you know, seeing David take the costume off. He'd have his, you know, long underwear, like,
right,
and he's, you know, sweating. Right, the first time I saw him or you know, like sweat, and I'm like, oh well, obviously they're sweating. It's really hot. So just seeing how it all worked was awesome, and I do remember. I remember working with you at Radio City, and then with David on set the first couple of episodes. I remember just being so delightfully surprised how funny he was, and he would keep it light and, you know, make jokes. He'd kind of rally us, I think, especially, you know, when I was new, those first couple of episodes, he would, you know, kind of make some jokes to keep me laughing and, you know, kind of take any of the stress of the newness away. So yeah, I remember just feeling like these people are so cool. So yeah, it was awesome.
You know, I love asking this question because it's so interesting to me with you from your perspective. You obviously know as we're just talking about, you know, we're in costume. Were you concerned about getting bumped into, you know, we had pretty good vision, but at the same time, you know, in areas we're blind. Were you concerned about it? Did you always try and stay out of the way? Did you?
I think I remember getting, you know, a tail bop every now and then.
Right.
But it was never, you know, I never once felt like I was ever in danger of being hurt on set or anything. I mean, all of the adults who were managing things were so on it about everything. You know, I remember laughing, you know, finding out that, you know, there were wranglers for each dino, that we had a wrangler, you know, with kids, just to make sure that, you know, everything we needed, we had. And so no, I wasn't, that part was so fun to me, but, you know, dancing around. And, you know, I think that because I was older, I mean, I was 12 when we shot 300. So my peers, you know, were not exactly like, wow, you know, what a cool show. Obviously, it wasn't geared toward them. So, and I remember thinking, like, it's awesome, you know, like, it's so much fun. It's fun. People are funny. It was a great time.
Well, and then also, you were doing school with them as well. Is that?
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Really interesting now because especially since I have my own kids now going through COVID and virtual school.
Wow. Yeah, it's like what we're gonna do, what to do, what the hell they're gonna do thing. But anyway, let's continue on.
And knowing that, you know, I was pretty untraditionally schooled for a couple of years, it was great. There was I actually don't remember the classroom in Allen. I can't picture it, but at Las Colinas, we were upstairs in our own big classroom space, and our teachers from our schools would just send the work to us, and we would do it, you know, kind of self-paced. We had this amazing tutor who I still think of to this day. Her name was Sandra Gilpin. Did you meet her, Carrie?
She is one of my favorite people. You know, and I know you know this, who her daughter is, which is Perry Gilpin from Frasier. She was such a special lady, and we're gonna get into Radio City here in a moment. And I'm telling you, she protected me. I had never been on the road or anything like that. So, yeah,
Okay. Oh wow.
wonderful,
So
wonderful woman. I just loved her.
that warms my heart to hear that from you too, because I was a child, so obviously, I only felt what I felt, and I felt so grateful for her, and just so comforted by her presence. So it's nice to hear that you as an adult felt that as
Oh,
well. And she was just so grounding for me,
Yeah.
and I just felt like she really cared about each of us. So it was a really amazing experience, the schooling part, certainly, because she was, part of it, and just a really special person.
Mm-hmm.
um, and then what's it like? All the other parts of it, because you've got wardrobe, and you're going through all of that. You probably dealt with the prop department and some of the different things that they did there. I mean, there's so much going on that people don't understand. Did you have a favorite part? Was it dressing up? Was it dancing? Was it singing? Or was it all?
I was thinking about how it was really Barney was my first glimpse into a bigger world for me. I came from a middle class background. My dad worked in an office. My mother was a principal.
Wow.
And when I started on Barney, I watched, I want to say her name was Elizabeth, a props person. It could have been
Elizabeth Belton
Elizabeth Felton, yes.
and Lisa Albertson.
Yes, and I watched Elizabeth prepare some of the props, and I just remember I was 10 years old, and I remembered watching this and realizing this is a job. Like, this is a talent, and this is a skill that she has, and she's amazing at it, and this is a job. Like, I had never really seen that before, and I just remember being really, it really opened my world a bit. And I would say, though, I have fond memories of wardrobe and makeup and hair because, again, and I was, a preteen, so I thought it was really cool that, these awesome ladies were doing my hair and my makeup. And a little funny story about my hair was that I was infamous for having really difficult to work with hair, because not because it was big or anything. It was because it would not hold curl and it would not like stay in a ponytail very well. So they used to tell me, starting my first week, when they were like, oh my gosh, they would just be like, you are not allowed to wash your hair for an entire week, or else we're never going to be able to do anything with it. So I remember Miss Deborah who did hair, and she would just say to me, like, okay, I'm getting the whole can of hairspray out, like, here we go. Get it to stay, because even once they did it, it would be coming out. And I just remember they were they made it into a funny little thing, and it was just it was always a treat working with them. So yeah. And wardrobe, I mean, again, it was just funny because I was 10, 11, 12 years old, wearing Gap size 7 or whatever.
Right.
So yes, but it was fun. All of that was really fun when you're a kid.
Well, I want to jump into Radio City. I know everyone sitting here listening to the interview wants me to jump into Radio City, and so so we're going to jump into Radio City, because it really was an unbelievable experience. I think it's so neat that the fans love that video and love that experience so much. And I'm really curious to hear your experience from that amazing trip. Before we go to New York, let's talk about the rehearsals in Dallas and Las Colinas, which was the first time I met all of you, by the way.
Yes.
I had been doing the PR for Barney, and so this was the first time I was actually working with all of you, because David and I both did the show. Knowing that you were rehearsing for a show that was going to be live in Radio City, what were your feelings back then as you were getting ready for this experience?
remember being excited, but excited in the sense that it hadn't come alive yet. So I couldn't even envision it. And my parents would say, like it's going to be like 100 times what you've done in community theater, and so I was like, oh, okay, so I think that it did not hit me until we were there, because when we were rehearsing in Dallas, it was the same as it always was. It felt, like rehearsals. So it wasn't really until we got there that it really was like, oh, this is the big time. Yeah, I think I had to kind of actually be there before I really understood.
Yeah.
Well, I think it helped us all that we were doing songs that we had done a lot. So a lot of the choreography was songs we knew. Obviously, they were for a bigger stage, a lot bigger stage. Now, had you been to New York before at that point?
No, although my parents they were from the East Coast, so we've been to Philadelphia and Baltimore, and but I was born in Baltimore, and we had lived in Texas just for a few years when I started on Barney. So no, they said this is going to be amazing, New York City, and it was. So, but no, that was my first time there. Yeah, and you too, right?
It was my second time there.
Okay.
I had done this huge show that they have every year. It's called Toy Fair, where all the new toys come out and this and this and that. And they had said, "Do you want to go to New York?" And my eyes were big, but I said, "Yes, I do." And so that was kind of my first chance, but nothing like this experience. This is a whole other level. Us staying at the Regal Royale.
Oh my gosh.
Where all the celebrities from the Grammys had just been. The rehearsal halls. I mean, that's where they rehearse for every Broadway show. And here, I mean, we're doing the real deal. What was it? Can you remember?
Oh my gosh!
The city for the first time?
I was actually just remembering that Bob West. So my memories of Bob are special in that I feel like he was one of the first people I met in my life who I was just like, okay, this guy knows things. Like he knows a lot about a lot of different things, because back in that time, that was 93. I think my family had just gotten like a 6-foot long computer in our family.
Right.
Like this was back in the dinosaur age of playing Oregon Trail and Carmen San Diego, and he had a laptop, and I just remember being like, he has a laptop, like who even knows what that is? So my memory of getting ready to go to New York City was that Bob he like Xeroxed copies of like a guide that he made, and he had like this whole page on knishes and like where to get like these potato knishes in New York. And I just remember reading. I was an avid reader. I mean, anything that I could get my hands on. So I'm like, okay, I'll read this guide that Bob made, and I'm just like, okay, a potato, what? Like what is? So my first memory really is of reading that before we left and being like, okay, well, if Bob says that we should try it, that's what we'll do. So that's my first memory. But when we got there, I was just blown away. I'd stayed in hotels before, but never one in Manhattan like this, and just the rehearsals. I remember having the dancers from the city come, who were just coming for this show, and watching them dance and being like, wow, this is Broadway. Like these are Broadway dancers. So yeah, I think I was amazed, and I loved it. I was always a huge fan of musical theater and Broadway shows, and so I felt like I was in the promised land.
Did you see a Broadway show while you were up there?
Yes, I remember seeing Cats, and I think that there were a couple of other ones, and I cannot remember which ones they were, but I think that I wound up seeing Cats twice, because I think my mom took me, and then I think I went with one of the other kids. But yeah, I loved it.
I got to go see Tommy with Julie Johnson, Baby Bob's Boys.
Wow.
And same thing. I was like, you know, she was an old pro. You know, had seen so much and done so much. You know, in her early life at those times, and I was like, just you know, everything. I've never seen anything like it in my life. It was.
Did you feel overwhelmed by the rehearsals? Like, did you feel intimidated, or you know, since you were older, like it was not quite so much?
I think I was really focused on what I was doing.
Yeah.
I had to do, you know, I always tell people I was the stunt Barney on that show. You know, I had my foot in the mopping, but everyone's got pictures of me in that mopping bucket up in the balcony.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a boa at one point. I had all the props and the stunts. And so I remember thinking, and most people don't know this, I'm not a huge fan of heights.
Wow.
So, you know, when they told me where they were putting me, I was like, oh, okay. And I had to go up an elevator to get there. And so there was a lot of timing and stuff like that. But I remember being very focused about that. And I also knew that I was David's understudy. If anything happened,
Wow.
I had to take over the whole show.
Wow.
So, you know, I think I was focused on that. I was definitely blown away when we first went into Radio City because you know how iconic it is.
Yes.
And I remember meeting a Rockette and thought that was, you know, my God.
Yes. No, I was just thinking that your role on that show was so technical. I'm sure it was really, I mean, to you know, have this part, this prop for this second, and this one, you know, like that's, ours was less so. So yeah, that would be a lot to make sure that you had it.
Well, you know, I tell people in this business, like, you just tell them you can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first got into doing Barney, I'd never been in a costume. They said, "You gonna have sure? Can you dance? Sure, I can. We're gonna put you in a mop and bucket. Great, not a problem. Like that's just what you do." And so, you know, then you think, "What did I just get myself?"
Exactly. No, and that was, I mean, there was so much. I just remember there was so much timing in that show. You know, with the wingsters and you know who's gonna be where. So yeah, and I mean, I think since we were kids, you know, we got more passes, obviously. So that would definitely be different to have to kind of make your mark on every single show, you know.
But you know, it's so interesting because this was a big deal. When you know, later on, I did some of the Barney tours, and we brought in kids that were just specific to those tours. But that show was the kids from the TV show. These were the kids that everyone knew in the audience. What was it like when Barney said, "Julie," and you came out?
It was amazing. I mean, it really was just an incredible experience. You know, when you're up on that stage, I just remember thinking, you know, every night I'd be like, and they're excited this night too. You know, you'd be like, and this night is just as good as, sounds even better. You know, just being so buoyed by everyone's energy out there. And you know, there was a lot of even though I was a kid, I remember seeing, you know, these younger children out there, toddlers, preschoolers, families, and you know, the joy on their faces was so genuine and so real. And you know, even as a child, I remember just thinking like, this is amazing to be able to bring this to someone, you know, to have this effect on a child. So I definitely, it was, you know, there was a magic to it, for sure.
Well, and there was a lot of things going on as well. From props, and then we're talking about the dinosaurs and all that. We've talked a lot on this show about the elephant because the elephant was such a big deal. And we were talking beforehand, so you actually danced with the elephant.
I mean, it's so funny. I forgot about it until I heard you and Jeff and Bob talk about the elephant, and all of a sudden that came flooding back. And I'm like, oh, I danced with the elephant at Radio City. I had forgotten that. Yeah, it's been, you know, 27 years. So, but yes, there was definitely a lot of details. I think that the kids, you know, even though certainly we had, you know, responsibility and a lot riding on us. We had a lot of support too, and that I remember. I think we each. I could be wrong, but I think we each had our own like dresser for behind this for backstage because we had to change costumes, and I think we each had one person assigned to us to that we would run to, and they would help us change really quickly, and then we would run back out. So I always felt like we had, everybody had our backs. But yeah, there was a lot, a lot of technical details on it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember dancing with that elephant?
To be honest, I really don't feel like I have a specific memory about that, but I do remember really well the crazy costumes for Boom Boom, Ain't It Great to Be Crazy?
Yeah, you all dressed like clowns.
Yes, and I remember because I had a solo in that one, and just like every night, doing it, and just I just loved it. It was really just so much fun to be able to do it and to see those faces out in the crowd, definitely. And I remember hearing you talk to Jeff and Bob about the different celebrities, and my mom remembered for the rest of her life sitting next to John Travolta and Kelly Preston, and just saying,
repeat this again one more time.
To John Travolta and Kelly Preston,
wow,
and just saying, they, were just these great supporters of Barney, and just as enamored by it, and really just lovely people. So yeah, it was pretty, I think, amazing experience for our families too, for the kids. So
it really was. I told the story about getting to meet them as Barney. I'm doing a meet and greet for their child, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm hugging John Travolta. Like, you know what I mean? I'm hugging John Travolta. But you have to really stay in character, right? Because they didn't come for me. They obviously came for Barney. And what you learn so quickly is that they're just fans, right? They're parents, and they see the happiness that Barney brings to their child. And I thought that was such a cool. Yeah, that had to be an amazing experience for your mom.
Yes, definitely. But that's did you do? I don't think I knew that those were going on. Did you do a lot of meet and greets?
I did.
Like every show?
I did.
Okay, wow.
I did. Katie Couric. There's a picture
Oh my
of Katie Couric.
Well, the guest host for 2 weeks of Jeopardy and former CBS TV News, and today show for Katie Couric. Continue on.
And then, with the tours, I came back and did several of them at Radio City. And that was even, there was Rosie O'Donnell and John Bon Jovi.
Oh, wow. John Bon Jovi, rock and roll style. And the Rosie O'Donnell show host, and Rosie O'Donnell herself, and everything else will be fine. Continue on.
And I'll never forget, I was leaving for the day, and they came back and they said, Carrie, can you quickly do a meet and greet? And I said, well, absolutely. And I walk up, and it's the drummer of U2. And I'm like,
oh my God, drummer U2. Oh my. Let me check it out. Continue on.
Oh, and it's the same experience. Yeah, but it's the same experience, right? They're just like, oh my gosh, look at the child. And and I'm a Texas, now it's so funny you say Baltimore, because I was born in Washington, D.C.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Wow.
So I'm from right around you, and moved to Texas when I was 10 years old, and so became a big Texas boy, and so to go up to New York, and my God, Radio City and celebrities, and the experience with the kids, I think, is the most unbelievable. To go on a stage and 5,000 kids are like a rock concert.
Oh yeah, Larry Mullen Jr. Okay, he was 59 years old. Okay, continue on.
Yes.
And they know every dance step, and they know every song.
Totally. And I think I don't know. I think some of that is maybe different different now, just because back then TV was still TV. We weren't streaming anything, so it still felt just special in a way that I don't know, just because I think TV had a little bit more of a mystique about it still back then than maybe it does now with just there's so much media everywhere.
Right.
That I think it still felt a little bit magical that way.
Well, and I think the innocence of it and the authenticity of it, as they're getting to hear your story right now.
Yeah.
You were excited, right? You weren't just an actor going up to New York for a paycheck.
Right.
You were going to be a Radio City Music Hall, and you were enjoying every moment of it. And obviously, the fans could see that.
Yeah. No, that was genuine. Yeah, definitely.
Now, did you meet anyone at the Riga Royale? Did you run into any of the?
I was in the group of kids who we called out to Whitney Houston, and she stopped and
Wow, the late Whitney Houston. Rest in peace to her. Continue on.
And was very gracious to us, and we just thought that was amazing. And no, I don't think I can't recall meeting anyone else, but it was just all of it was a really incredible experience. I loved just walking around New York and just being in the city. Rockefeller Center, we went to FAO Schwartz. I was still young enough to think that was amazing. So yeah, no, I can't recall any other celebrities, but we may have. I may have just forgotten.
Yeah, because it was funny. They didn't tell you all that. Right?
No.
Like, you might run into this person, or I don't think I really understood what sold out Radio City for 11 shows, 12 shows.
Yes.
I don't know how you prepare for something of that nature.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that. Yeah, like I said, I feel like I didn't really grasp it until we got there. What it was going to be like. So yeah, it was really incredible.
Well, all of this started. We got connected because of this image.
Oh my god. Yeah, I saw this on Live at Purple Roads, which I'm not going to react to. That's a no-no. But this is amazing. Carrie, Lauren, Hope, and Susanna. That was amazing right there. These three glays are so adorable in this picture. Continue on.
So I have to say, imagine. Okay, you were older than I was, obviously.
Yeah. Goodness. Yeah. 20 something.
Okay, so
20s.
I was 10, 11, 12, and imagine your most awkward years captured on video forever. So I tell people all the time, and I'm just like, oh, those are the most awkward. If I could go back now, probably, and understand that as a child, I probably would have been like, oh, I don't know, but I was clueless, and so I just find it hilarious that, most people are like, okay, keep the middle school photos in the closet, and I'm like, here are mine on video.
Right. Right. Isn't that so? I know.
Yeah.
I know. I found those the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh my god, it really is. And plus, it was the early 90s, so just the outfits crack me up and
Yes.
all of it.
I know. I was like, what was I wearing?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the pictures, like the backstage photos that I have of Radio City, it's like hot pink leggings and like a hot, neon purple whatever. My bangs are back here, so yeah. It was an era.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I get called out all the time. I didn't show them for years, and I started bringing the pictures out. It's hysterical.
Yeah. You had a cover since you were in costume.
Well, I know, and I'm so glad you brought that up. Let's talk about that, because obviously we get done with the show, and no one wants to go talk to the sweaty guy walking back to the hotel, but they know who you are. Did people notice you?
You mean in general or in New York?
Well, just we'll talk in general, but let's talk in New York first. You leaving the show, going to the hotel, Definitely.
I mean, that was my, first experience with feeling tiny shred of what it must be like to be a celebrity. Because I remember just shuttling back and forth from Radio City to the hotel, and we had to be kind of together. I remember we were moving quickly, and I do have a vague memory of just one time of overhearing adults talking and saying that like we need to leave now because like there's a crowd that is maybe like not great, or I can't remember, but I remember only one time did it feel like, okay, we need to like actually leave now because they want us to make sure that we're 100% safe at all times. But I do remember people calling out Julie, and calling out all of our names. 98% of the time it was always really warm and cordial. But I just remember feeling that kind of both excitement and that like urgency that actual celebrities must feel as they're moving from the car to the theater, etc. So yeah, that was really quite an experience too at 11 years old.
Yeah, because it's interesting because I was doing PR, so I was actually getting to see how the fans reacted to Barney. I was doing sing-alongs around the country, but for all of you, you were really at the studio.
Right.
So you really hadn't taken the show out, and so now all of a sudden you're in New York. All of the kids and everyone from the TV show.
Yeah.
I bet that just was incredible.
It definitely was, and I think that I have way more memories of just in my life probably until I was about 15, 16, being constantly recognized when I was out in public at the mall, in the grocery store, and just that amazed me because thinking back to it now, that's how woven into the social fabric Barney was, that I would be recognized. I was just one of the several children on the show for a couple of years, and that I would be recognized. Most times I was in public. It seems crazy to me now, but there were a lot of people watching. So, and my family still jokes that I finally like must have looked my age when I stopped getting recognized around the age of 15, 16, 17 years old. I guess I no longer, looked like I was 6. I wasn't passing for it anymore. So, but that was incredible.
Wow.
Did your dad get recognized?
Oh, yes. I mean, my dad, still, because my dad was, an adult when he did the show, I would say probably the last time he got recognized was maybe 6 years ago. I mean, and
wow.
And he's 72 now. So,
oh my gosh.
So that's how to me that really is just absolutely amazing that many people, the show meant something to that many people, that they would recognize someone who is in one video. So yeah, incredible.
And everyone, by the way, says hello to your dad as well.
Oh.
I've been talking to Dennis, like, oh my gosh, you gotta tell him hello, and he made an impression.
Wow.
Let's talk about your dad for a second. How did he help you when you got on the show to maybe just calm any fears you had, or how did he help you adjust being on Barney and Friends?
So my dad was always kind of my unofficial singing coach. When I was a kid, from the time I was very young, I loved to sing, act, put on little shows. So throughout the years, he taught me kind of various techniques in singing, because I wasn't professionally trained whatsoever. So he had done that, and I think not so much that my dad did any kind of coaching, or and certainly was not pushy whatsoever. But I always knew that both my parents 100% believed in me, and just knowing that it's really funny now as a parent, knowing that I was 10 years old, I got a script, and it was like, here you go, like,
Wow.
learn these lines, and we're gonna take you to set and have fun, and like, I think that because they believed I could do it, I thought, yeah, sure, I can do it. Yeah, neither of my parents were particularly involved, in theater or television or any of the kind of stage parenting sort of thing. But they just always had confidence in me, and I felt that as a kid.
So nerves when you first at the audition? Were you like, oh my God, what if I don't do this?
No, I think probably just for me personally, I probably didn't have come up against a lot of like confidence struggles until I was an older, until like teenage years, etc. I kind of feel like maybe for good or, or for better or for worse, I was kind of blindly confident in that. I just thought, sure, I've done some plays. I'll come out here and sing this song, whatever. And so I didn't have those nerves. I think the reason that I felt nervous those first couple of episodes that I shot was getting on set and realizing I have no clue what I'm doing. Like, oh yeah, I've never done this before. I think it was, kind of the surprise of realizing that, and in some ways that's being a kid, and the wonderful part of being a kid is that you don't worry about that. So, but yeah, I was definitely just thrilled to be there.
Was your dad in New York as well? Or was it just your
No,
mom?
my grandmother came for, because I think it was about 3 weeks with rehearsals.
I think so.
I think it was around that. My grandmother came for the first week and stayed with me, and then my mom came for the second 2 weeks because I'm one of 3 kids, so there's a lot still to do at home. So yeah, my mom was just a person who loved travel and exploring. So we walked everywhere that we could when we were there, and just did, she really used it as an opportunity to, introduce me to things that she knew, opportunities that I just wasn't going to have otherwise at that time. So it was incredible.
Wow.
Can you remember places she took you that she wanted to take you to that meant something to her?
Yeah, there were. My parents had gone to New Orleans for their honeymoon many years before that, and so she found, this French cafe that served beignets, which was another thing, just like the. So you're getting from this conversation. So one of my hobbies is cooking, and I was always a very food-oriented person. So it's so my husband jokes that like I'm the only person he knows who he could name a day in a year 5 years ago, and I'm like, oh, on that day I ate whatever. Yeah, we went and had beignets, and she wanted to take me to some of the just iconic places. I think we went to is it Lindy's for cheesecake, and just the theater, Rockefeller Center. We went ice skating. So yeah, it was really amazing. Like a fairy tale for a kid.
I was wondering, when you mentioned Rockefeller Center, I was wondering if you actually went ice skating there.
Yes, yeah, we totally did.
Because I did that too at some point, and there's something like, I don't know, like the ice is different, right? There's something about the ice.
Definitely, yes. No, I think I do. I'm gonna have to dig through and see if I have any pictures, because I'm picturing myself right now in some hot pink leggings at Rockefeller Center. But yeah, I mean, and you all, I don't know if you had, I'm assuming you all had less time probably than the kids did to explore, just because you were probably working longer than we were.
Well, I did some other things. So I did PR for them as well. So I do remember, which was the coolest thing, we got to do I think it was for the press or something like that, but it was at Roseland Ballroom, the famous Roseland Ballroom, and we did a little circus sing-along. And
Wow.
that's the coolest thing about New York is everywhere you are, it's the history.
Yes.
The history in it is it's unbelievable.
Yep, I can still actually, like, thinking about it now, I can still remember, like, the way it smelled on the streets. Like, it was still cold there when we went. So I just remember, like, the steam rising off the streets, and yeah.
But isn't it funny? There's something about that too. Like it didn't feel as cold. Like I remember it being cold, but you're in New York. Like the energy of that city, of the people, of the light, of everything, almost makes it warmer. Like you're just walking around, like, oh my gosh, look at this, and oh my gosh, look at that. And
yes, and just the number of people on the streets, and just walking, and yeah, there was a huge energy.
So, yeah, it's so funny when we start talking about this, and the more memories come back and all this. I keep bringing up that elephant because do you know what happened with that elephant? Do you know the story, the famous story about that elephant?
Maybe I do, and I haven't recalled it in so long that I'm forgetting, but nothing is jumping out right now.
Yeah, that elephant got loose during one of our rehearsals.
Yes, I think I do have vague memories of this. Yes. But everyone was fine?
Not only was everyone fine, but the sets were fine too. I mean, you've got an elephant loose.
Wow.
And we had our dressing area, which we called the Dino Pit. We had it backstage. We're all sitting around there on apple boxes. You're stretching and talking about what you can do and all that stuff. And please get off the stage. The elephant, and everyone runs us off. The elephant. We need the elephant.
Now I am actually, yes. Now I am remembering this. Although it's funny that's just shows how great everyone was about taking care of us kids. That I don't remember, feeling terrified that an elephant was on the loose. But now that you say that, I'm remembering that. But yeah, that is crazy. What I forget and what I remember.
Well, and the other thing that's famous from that show, and you probably don't know this, we never did a full rehearsal.
Oh my gosh.
We never were able to run through the full show.
Was that because we ran out of time?
Technical, it was all kinds of things, technical things. And, that show is, for as simple as Barney was at times, that show was actually complicated.
Yes.
If you remember the lift, BJ's plane would come from the symphony down below, and obviously the Wingster was in one balcony and I was in another, and then there was all kinds of things going on, and elephants, and the different costs, the clowns, and I remember Derek, Ricky Carter had the strongman. There was just a lot going on.
Oh wow. Yeah, and that's why we had someone who was assigned to each of us, like helping us change our costumes, because there really was it was obviously it was alive, it was fast paced. So yeah, I didn't remember that there wasn't a full rehearsal, but yeah, it makes sense. There was a lot going on.
And the funny thing, I don't know that it even affected me. Like, I had never done anything like that, right? I think I was just so focused that we'll just keep doing what you're doing,
Right.
Like, I know the producers were sweating I know Dennis was sweating.
Well, that was the. Am I right in that was the second live show that they had put together? That there was a first live one they did just in Texas. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, I thought I remembered something, but to think now, for them going from doing one in Texas to going to Radio City,
right.
That's a huge leap.
Yeah, it was at the Majestic Theater.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was obviously a lot smaller.
Right.
Production. Oh my God.
Yeah. Right.
Nothing against the Majestic; it's a wonderful theater, but.
No, yeah, that was a big difference.
Right.
Yeah.
So I know people are wondering, what are you doing these days? Obviously, 4 kids, keeping you busy.
Yes. So I guess so. After Barney, so it was kind of a natural endpoint for me, because my family, my dad took a job in New Jersey.
Wow.
I guess it was spring of 1995.
Okay. And that's why I was doing BNF Vlogs episode 68, and I'm like, what the hell is Joey doing? Excuse my language, but continue on.
And I would have been turning 13 in June, so I think my parents
that was my birth month! Continue on.
Decided, this is probably a good time for us to go and end it here. So we moved to New Jersey, and I went to high school there, and I did some more, acting and singing, but sort of realized, through my teenage years that I wanted to explore other things, in adulthood, that it wasn't going to be my passion for my life. So I went to college in Baltimore, and then I went straight from college to graduate school. I was very into academics, and I studied political science, and was really happy doing that. And I actually wound up through graduate school realizing how much I loved to write, and that was a
Wow.
real, kind of a real talent of mine that I wanted to pursue. So I became a writer, doing some different freelance writing and then grant writing.
What about screenwriting? That's what Jim Laird does. Continue on.
Nonprofit writing, and I got married, and my husband and I now have 4 sons, from age 11 to 2.
Wow.
So over the last 10 years, I have mostly been raising my boys, and now I also write part-time as a contract grant writer in healthcare mostly. And
Wow, okay.
writing is kind of my hobby passion on the side. So I have not done anything, theater or industry related in so many years that I often forget about this part of my life, honestly. So it's fun to remember it with you.
Wow.
Well, what is it like when you tell friends, or even when you first told your husband, so by the way, because that's an experience that very few people have.
Well, I think that's part of, to me, what is so special about that time, and so different about what television is like these days, because when it's a funny story of how I met one of my very best friends in the world was college orientation, and I go to college thinking because everyone had known in my school years, that I was the Barney girl.
Right.
And when you're 16, 17, 18, that's not exactly what you're looking to be known for. And so when I was 18 years old, I went to college orientation, thinking okay, opening this chapter where nobody knows that, I'm former Barney actress, and my future best friend spots me from across a bridge and goes, "Julie?" Because she had younger siblings who watched the show. So we still crack up over this, that I was like, here I am, I'm, starting my cool life. And so throughout those years, I would still get recognized. And even today, when I tell people of my generation or older about it, they are just like, what? This is so, are you kidding? It was so much part of the culture then, and people's memories. Whereas when, I try to explain it to my own children, I'm like, thinking that I'm dropping this really big thing for them. And I'm like, I was on this TV show, and they're like, oh, great. Because, now it's like there are a million shows.
Right.
My oldest child, knows about YouTubers. So he's just like, okay, well, this guy's on YouTube too. It's just completely, it's just different. But yeah, now, I mean, certainly people of my generation still are kind of blown away by the Barney connection, just because they remember it really well.
Well, yeah, it's hard for the kids of today. We've got 2 teenagers here, and you can just imagine what they think about it. And because it's the same thing, YouTube and all that. But how popular it was! I mean, we sold out those shows in 30 minutes. I mean, we were breaking records. We were filling arenas. I did shows in front of at 1.16 thousand, and we did Reunion Arena. I don't know if you remember Reunion, the big in Dallas.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Jeff and Jeff Brooks. You would have known Jeff Brooks, played DJ.
Yep.
The three of us did sing-alongs, and we sold out 3 times. You know, it was 16,000, 17,000 people.
Oh my gosh! Wow, that's
with like just a backdrop and some lights.
Yeah.
Because Barney really didn't need all that. Barney didn't need all the props and everything. It was just singing and dancing, and it's what everyone loved.
And what do you think? I'm curious. You know, since you were an adult when you were doing it, you know, what do you attribute that to? The fact that it really, you know, was so popular and so known and loved by, you know, so many. How do you kind of reflect on that?
Well, it's funny. It's what we need today. It just makes me laugh because we were doing it back in the 90s.
Yes.
But it's the love aspect, and it's the authenticity aspect. That every person, that was their friend.
Yeah.
Judge anyone, Barney loved everyone. And you could go sing and dance with him, and if you were shy, or you had a problem, or you didn't really know, whatever it may be, Barney loved you unconditionally.
Right.
And you could just go have fun with him. You knew when you were going to watch that show, you were going to have fun. And I think, you know, it's funny you were talking about the kids. You were a kid. You were just a kid. No, every one of those kids had their own personality.
Exactly.
Which I thought was so great, you know, from Brian, Michael Epps, and Min, and you know, Hopi, and you, and all of them. You all stood out. Try and stand this. Like, you were just being you. You were just being a kid. But you had different than the other one. You know, as you're talking about men and all the dancing. So I think that was it. I think kids at home could relate to it and go, oh my gosh, I want to go. That looks like fun. I want to go play with my friends. And that was it.
Yeah.
We didn't want anything. We didn't do it. It was just kind of having fun and showing you that, you know, teaching you about the innocence of, you know, of life.
Yeah. I think having, you know, been born in the early 80s and then doing the show in the 90s, you know, that in my memory and in my experience, that message that I think that today's parents deliver much more freely to their children of, you know, you matter, you're special, you know, you're loved. You know, in the 80s, that was still kind of not really as much, I think, in the zeitgeist. So I just remember, you know, thinking as I got to be a teenager and a young adult that that was a message that needed to be heard. I think clearly it resonated with a lot of people. So.
Well, yeah, it was incredible, and you know, we're talking about in these days about diversity. Barney was diverse, but didn't try to be. It wasn't like we had a quota or we said we need to get this person or we need to get that person, or you know, it was just who we were across the board. And it's funny how we got so far away from it, and now we want that same message. And you know, it was uncomfortable. People, you know, tell someone else they love them.
Right.
And now it's like everyone's craving that. And I remember that so much. Well, what is this message you're doing? And what is this and this and that?
Yes.
I love you. That's it. You know. I mean, we had songs like "You Are Special," which was really big in the Radio City show.
Wow.
And you know, "You're the Only One," and obviously the "I Love You" song is just resonated. And I've had so many fans of this show and a Barney say to me, the first time I learned about love was from your show, because I was never told this, and now, like, you know,
which is so touching. Yes, I mean, it's really, and I think too, in my memory, like I said, I felt like the producers and the writers really took the time to, you know, develop stories for all of us. My storyline in season or series 300 was that I was adopted, and you know, I just thought, like, that's awesome that they're going to incorporate, you know, I feel like they really took time to make sure that, different family backgrounds were mentioned, different family situations. And I remember even thinking, at 11, 12 years old, like, that's so great, that a child can watch this and feel represented and seen.
Yeah, and I think people were surprised that, Bernie not only producers and writers, but they had an educational team that went over everything. It was very well thought out.
Yes.
And they really, put together these wonderful messages and stories. And, and we talked about Miss Penny so much, my God, she did it with the choreography.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways that kids could relate to. These little kids were able to do all the dance movements because she came up with movements that a 2-year-old could do. And so there you are in front of, all those people at Radio City, and they're doing the same dances with you.
Yes. No, it really, I think there were so many talented people involved and creative people that it really just, was a group effort.
I can't thank you enough
Yeah.
for being on here.
It's been so fun.
This has just been wonderful.
Yeah.
I was so excited when I got your message, and I'm like, oh my God, oh my gosh. And, and I can tell you now, not only the Bernie fans, but all the Bernie family are going to be so excited to see you. And so how great you're doing. What's going on with you?
Thank you. No, this has been such a pleasure, and I was so thrilled to see it. And like I told you, because I only discovered this a week ago, I can't wait to listen to some more episodes and hear from people that I haven't seen or heard in so many years. And it's really great to revisit a really special experience in time. So Thank you. I think it's great that you're doing this.
Well, thank you. It's been, it's almost a guilty pleasure of mine because I get to talk to all these wonderful people, and I love hearing the stories.
Yes.
And I think you're going to find with yours, it's so interesting. I learned new things.
Yeah.
And I'm, you got me thinking about Sandra. I haven't thought about Sandra in a long time, and I just absolutely loved her.
Yes. She was an incredibly special person, and her husband too. I have very fond memories. He came and tutored me in math, so which I needed. They just were really lights on the set and in that Barney world. So I'm so thankful to have had my path cross with hers.
Well,
with everybody's.
Well, I'm so glad my path crossed again with you. It is so good to see you, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, no, thanks so much, Carrie.
Well, thank you for watching Purple Roads. Remember to keep your eyes, ears, and your heart open, and you'll find your Purple Road. We'll see you next week.
So that was Purple Road, episode number 61. What do I think about this episode? It was amazing. So far, this episode went to be a success for Suzanne Williams, things like that. Anyways, guys, double episode of LJ Reacts, episode number 594. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned for the next one, which is gonna be episode 595 LJ Reacts. Let's say episode 62 of Purple Roads Podcast. Till next time, so Joseph, goodbye, peace out, baby. Good words to react to guys very soon. Till then, Jump State out. See ya.
Given unto me this life I'll never take for granted, and given all the time I failed to really understand it, I never sought to meet the maker of reality, the one who gave the life that which is always happening, but I tried all the time. I was I the one to see things as I do under the moonlight and the sun? Perception is the question, and the giver holds the key, but the only